welcome to the Jeff Rubin Show. I am Jeff Rubin, and today I'm excited because we're going to be talking about the Muppets with
Ryan Roe
and
Joe Hennes.
And these guys know a lot about the Muppets. Gentlemen, what are your Muppet credentials?
Well,
what's your Muppet resume?
Our Muppet resume.
Ooh.
That's tough. Well, our big thing on our resume at the very top is that we run toughpigs.com, which is a Muppet fan site aimed toward adult age fans of the Muppets. Like
the tagline is Muppet fans who grew up.
That's right. The site has been around since 2001. We've been running it.
2001?
We haven't been running it the whole time.
No.
That's like an eternity in internet years.
Well, what we say is it was a blog before the word blog existed, which is actually true. I don't think the word blog existed.
It used to be completely in black and white.
So
that's not even a joke.
You inherited it from someone?
We did. His name's Danny Horn, and around 2005, Danny left Tough Pigs behind because, actually, I should back up. Before Tough Pigs, he actually published a zine in the mid-90s called Muppet Zine.
That was like the pre-blog blog.
It was amazing. I had a subscription.
Do we have to explain what a zine is? Do people not know?
Oh, maybe.
Potentially, I'm not sure.
Well, it's
I guess we've talked
short
about it.
for magazine.
Yeah.
But they're like this was like a thing before the internet where people would self-publish, just with a Xerox machine, little handheld magazines, and they're cool and interesting.
Yes.
Right. So Danny would write about Muppets and make his own photocopies and mail them to people.
This is just pre-internet, and this guy's just like, I gotta be talking about the Muppets. I gotta be getting the word out
when
there.
you have the passion, you have to do something about it.
So he's publishing a zine. He's then he obviously it becomes a website, and then
Correct.
in 2005, what happened?
So 2005, Danny left to start the Muppet Wiki. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Muppet Wiki.
It's got an incredible logo. The logo for it's that Kermitite. It's
so simple.
I've probably been to the wiki for a lot of things, but I'm sure I've been to the Muppet one because I know that logo so well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he started the wiki in 2005.
Yes.
And when was Wikipedia started? Like, was that seems like it's very early in wiki.
It had been around a few years. I think that was just around the time that the specialized wikis were becoming a thing, like Disney wikis and Star Wars.
Right,
the Wikipedia and whatnot.
That Wikipedia is the name is as good as the logo. The Muppet Wiki.
So at the time, the Muppet Wiki was the fastest growing wiki that Wikia had. So Wikipedia was huge; they were never going to compete with those numbers. But Muppet Wiki just completely exploded. The fan base just jumped on it, and Danny had no time for Tough Pigs anymore. He just completely left the site behind. So about a year later, Ryan had just moved to New York and moved into my apartment here, which is where we're sitting right now. And Danny came to visit just a couple months after he moved here. And we told Danny, if you're not going to do it anymore, what if we did it?
It had been about a year with no content, and people wanted more Tough Pigs.
So what is doing it exactly? What do you do as the administrator site? What is the content of a site about the Muppets, which, are active? I guess they're on and off active. Maybe they're not producing something every given week, though.
There's usually something going on between the Muppets, like the Muppet Show characters that are now owned by Disney, and Sesame Street, which is always doing new stuff. And then the Jim Henson Company still owns stuff like the Dark Crystal and Fraggle Rock and that kind of stuff. But
that's pretty recent. Like now I feel like the Muppets, but surely there were some... All I'm saying is, what do you guys do at the Muppet site all the time? What are the constant update you guys writing? Is it just that? Just like writing anytime, any one of these characters, anything Henson adjacent?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
So we try to get as much content as we can. And the good thing about the Muppets is that there's like 60 years worth of history there. And we've, so far at least, we've done a pretty good job at finding different ways to talk about all these different things that have happened and will happen and things that are coinciding with things in the world. So basically, it comes down to news, commentaries, reviews, all of which, by the way, we do with a kind of a more snarky voice. We try to be funny with it, try to have fun with it.
We try.
I
don't know if we always succeed.
Right, we think we're funny. That's the important thing. We do interviews with the puppeteers and the writers and things like that. What else do we do?
Well, we have a category on the site called Fun Stuff, which is just
everything else is deadly serious.
Right.
Oh yes, always. But yeah, like we'll have people send in their redesigns for Muppet movie DVD covers and stuff like that. Or there's something we used to do every year, and now it's a little more sporadic. But the Ugly Muppet Toy Pageant. So we ask people to look for pictures of the ugliest Muppet toys, like official licensed Muppet toys they can find, and send them in, and then people vote on which ones are the ugliest.
There are some really, really ugly, horrible Muppet toys out there.
Like cross-eyed Elmos, or like Cookie Monsters that look like they've been shaved, or
Let's take a step back for a second. What is a Muppet? In the words of Lisa Simpson, and paraphrase Lisa Simpson, what exactly is a Muppet? Where do we draw the line? It's not just things on the Muppet Show. Sesame Street, that counts. How do we define what a Muppet is?
So, well, now if you're talking the actual definition of Muppets, that would be the things that you see on the Muppet Show, like those wiggling dollies. But for us personally, when we say we run a Muppet fan site, we're talking about everything that's covered by the Muppet family, now owned by Disney, everything on Sesame Street, and everything owned by the Jim Henson Company.
Which are 3 separate entities.
Yeah,
Disney?
it used to be a lot easier when everything was owned by the Hensons, but it's a little more complicated these days.
So what is still owned by the Henson Company?
They own Fraggle Rock, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth.
The Storyteller TV series.
They also do a lot of work with Jim Henson's legacy and like things like the things he's written, like early scripts that were never produced and sketches that he made, things like that. They find new ways to repurpose that kind of stuff.
So what's going on the Muppet site, Tough Pigs, today? Like, what was the most recent thing you guys posted?
We actually just finished our April Fool's
that was big,
which was awesome. So every year we do a really fun April Fool's gag. I mean, April Fool's on the internet now.
Sure.
We're not actually fooling anyone. I think one year you wrote an article about the new Muppet movie.
Yeah, it was the year that the rumors were flying about Jason Segel, his Muppet movie script, which we didn't really know exactly what it was going to be at that time. So I just posted an article at the top of the website announcing that Disney had decided to just remake the original Muppet movie from 1979.
Yep.
I always forget if it's 1978 or 79.
But the funny thing about that is that it's so specific and it's just barely believable. So a lot of people
barely believable enough, but a lot of people got really mad.
That's true. But in previous years, we turned Tough Pigs into Tough Bears. It was all about Muppet Bears. And
what is the name Tough Pigs referring to?
So when Danny started Tough Pigs, he was afraid because he knew he was going to be doing everything with a very critical, snarky voice that the people who own the Muppets might get upset and might want to try to shut him down.
And in 2001, nobody really knew who was going to end up owning the Muppets because they had just been sold. Let's see, the Jim Henson Company had been sold to this German media conglomerate called EMTV that didn't really know what to do with them. And then they got bought back by the Henson family, and then we thought they might sell them to Disney, so we didn't really know who was going to end up with them. So Danny just didn't want whoever owned them to end up suing him.
So he didn't want to have a website with the word Muppet in it. That's what it comes down to. And at the time, he was planning on writing a book called Tough Pigs and Gentle Frogs. Kind of an everything I ever wanted to know I learned from the Muppets type of thing. And that's where the name came from. And right now, because we inherited the site, we're kind of kicking ourselves just a little bit because we're a little bit harder to find on a Google search.
We kind of wish it had the word Muppet in the name of the website sometimes.
Yep.
So when you guys are writing a review, are you writing a review from the perspective of, from the present? What do you try to cover in the review? Because obviously we all like the Muppets, right? Like,
sure.
It's good. You're running the website. So, like, what are you looking for in a review?
There's a couple of things. Well, first of all, we are well aware that for a lot of the stuff, especially Sesame Street related stuff, we're not the key demographic.
You're reviewing Sesame Street?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We review Sesame Street stuff all the time. Because the great thing about Sesame Street is that it works on multiple levels.
Yeah, I did actually tweet, like, literally yesterday, because they did a Game of Thrones thing.
Yes.
Yeah, they did a Game of Thrones thing.
Exactly, which is so great, and we were excited to write about that the other day. But the Muppets, like Kermit Piggy type family Muppets, are a little bit, we get a little more critical about those things because we are the target demographic for those things. So if there's something that they do that maybe we don't think it's very funny, we don't think that the production value is very high, we think, like, what the hell are they doing, like hanging out with, like, Disney tween stars for this production.
They did a recent series that's actually going on now for Disney Junior, where it's the Muppet Show characters talking to little kids and, like, counting to 10 with them and stuff, which is really not what that family of characters was designed for. So
that's like the Sesame Street.
Yeah, exactly. So we did not hesitate to kind of be critical of that stuff.
Pan the shit out of it. Really took them down a notch.
Well, it was more like, why are they doing this?
Well, the great thing is that, we've met a lot of the puppeteers and the writers and such, and, sometimes they just get an assignment and they have to run with it. So we almost never talk about their performance. We do if it's a particularly awful performance, which is rare, but we rarely attack the actual performers.
Yeah,
because
I can't think of any time we've ever actually criticized a performance. Maybe
I can think of
I
one.
don't think I have.
No, I can think of one where we have.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
We can talk about it later. But they want these productions to be as good as possible as well. So I think they actually like the fact that we talk about these things and talk about like, no, that's not what the Muppets would do. The Muppets would do this instead, because they're probably saying the same thing, but they aren't really being heard because they're just being hired for a job.
And I think the stuff we write is readable to anyone, not just the hardcore geeks like us, but that's definitely the point of view that we're writing it from
the hardcore geek
yes
point.
exactly.
Although every once in a while we do some stuff that's just like, I'm sorry, you're not going to get this.
What is something like that? What is something that I, as the casual Muppet fan reading a review online, you might write about that would really stump me?
Well, I mean, to go,
and it's tough because the Muppets are so well known, you know,
exactly.
like everyone knows the Muppets,
right? But because there's so much history, like Ryan and I have these like encyclopedic memories for these obscure characters and sketches and appearances that aren't on DVD, and like, so basically, I want to go back to like our April Fool's joke this year, which we turned Tough Pigs into a BuzzFeed parody. We called it Buzz Pigs, and we replaced all the articles on the site with these clickbait type articles, and a few of them just got very, very specific. I'm trying to think of a good example that would really illustrate.
Well, there was like 10 things a true Muppet fan would do in New York City, and they were all pretty much references to the Muppets Take Manhattan. So if you don't know that movie well, you would maybe get 2 or 3 things on the list.
Right.
What about so we talked a little bit about like you not liking some Muppet things. Obviously, you like most Muppet things, if not all Muppet things.
Yes.
What for you is like, what is the real shit? I'm sorry I'm cursing so much.
No,
about
it's
the Muppets, but,
fine.
like,
No,
what is the truth, the prime Muppet thing? If you had, because this is unbelievable, but imagine, just hypothetically, someone wasn't familiar with the Muppets. What would you show them to explain why you're doing this and why you've devoted all this energy
This is
to
actually
it?
an article that Ryan wrote.
We have talked about this, yeah.
He wrote an article about this, right? Like the 3
was-
things he would show someone who never heard of the Muppets.
I think it was 6 things, actually, because
things?
nobody could limit it to just 2 or 3
So what's on that
things,
list?
Well, for me, the main thing is The Great Muppet Caper, because that's
Interesting.
my favorite of the Muppet movies, and I think it's the purest expression of what they do, which is just like the musical numbers, the comedy, and then the heart.
What makes it? And I know the Muppet movie, the first one, the Muppet movie, really, really well. I know the others. I probably would have missed some of the references on your Muppets Take Manhattan list, but I know them pretty well. What makes the Great Muppet Caper so much better than
Well, I'm not saying so much better.
But what makes it stand
it's just
out?
my
What makes it
favorite.
stand out to you?
I don't. It's that old Hollywood musical pastiche. It's just like it works really well for the Muppets. I love the Muppet movie though too. It's a great story.
cool. What else was? So what?
It's
wait.
funny. Well, it's funny because Ryan has a lot more affection for the Great Muppet Caper than I. I mean, I do love the Great Muppet Caper, but like, I would probably wouldn't make my top, 6. What are we talking about? 6 things?
Things to show. A
Yeah,
fan? Really?
yeah. I mean, I love the Muppet movie, but honestly, like the most pure, like apex of anything Muppets for me is always going to be the Muppet Show. And I know there's 120 episodes to choose from, which makes it much more difficult.
Did you have a specific episode on the list when you?
Or even an era of it, like early Muppet Show versus later Muppet Show. Do you see a difference there? I'm sure
Probably
there is.
not
Yeah.
early Muppet Show.
Yeah, first season of the Muppet Show's a little shaky.
It's a little rough.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, if you watch it, like Gonzo looks really strange, and
And
the
you
guest
have
stars aren't
characters
really
like-
involved with whatever's
Yeah,
going
you
on.
have characters like Hildra, the wardrobe mistress, who nobody has ever heard of at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah, did you call her Hildra just now?
Hilda, the wardrobe
Hilda.
mistress.
I heard Hildra.
Oh, well, there's a lot of
I just
ours.
wanted to correct you real quick.
Wardrobe mistress, Hilda.
In case any diehard fans are listening, I
That's
didn't want
part
them to
of the.
think you
I'm
were getting
sure
something wrong.
a big part of running Tough Pigs is correcting people too.
Oh yeah.
Or just biting our tongues, trying not to, because sometimes
I
people are
usually
wrong.
can't bite my tongue.
No, that's true. But yeah, no, I could probably rattle off a bunch of Muppet
What
Show
else is on that
episodes.
list? Well,
But-
okay, so yeah, give me a few of your
All
top
right, so
Muppet Show
like
episodes.
the Harry Belafonte
Yes,
episode,
absolutely.
like
Yeah,
John
that's a good
Cleese
one.
episode.
Okay.
Harry Belafonte was one of Jim Henson's favorites, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Pearl Bailey episode's great.
Oh yeah,
Pearl
that's a
Bailey?
great one.
She was like a soul R&B singer,
Cool. That sounds good.
and she does this amazing song with Floyd backstage, which is one of my all-time favorite Muppet
That
moments.
episode also has the final segment is where they're doing the jousting scene from Camelot, but the concept is they couldn't get the rights to the songs, so they have to do numbers from other musicals and try to make them fit into the jousting scene from Camelot, and that's just very funny and silly.
That's funny.
And it's also funny, the backstage story there is that it cost him so much more money to get the rights to all the songs they use in the
Right,
jousting
right.
scene rather than if they just use the ones from Camelot.
Who is the audience for who was it designed for? Because I wasn't around when they were airing it. I was very, very young, at the very least. And, I grew up with and we got to talk about it. Muppet Babies was like, I loved Muppet Babies when I
Sure.
was a kid, and
Yeah.
And I was just always into the Muppets. I was always into the Muppet Show, even at a very young age, probably too young an age to like really appreciate, certainly at least some of what was going on in the show. So who is the Muppet Show for? Who is it designed for? Is it everyone? Is it designed to work on all those levels?
Well, here, the way I see it is Jim Henson always wanted to do a show for adults, and he got kind of, I don't want to say stuck, but he was kind of stuck doing Sesame Street for a long time, and really wanted to branch out of that. So his original
He
concept...
just didn't want people to think that it was only for little kids.
Right.
Gotcha,
But
yeah.
when he tried to make his first few pilots for what would become the Muppet Show, it was much more for adults, and that didn't really work. Like he really needed to find something what would become the Muppet Show that was for everyone.
The second pilot was actually called The Muppet Show Sex and Violence.
right.
Is that like available online somewhere?
It's actually on the
it's-
first season DVDs of
Yeah.
the Muppet Show. So yes, the Kermit Piggy type characters, I would say those are actually for everyone from 1 to 101.
Who watched the Muppet Show when it was on? Was it popular?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was at the time. It was the most widely syndicated show in the world.
It was syndicated. It wasn't on.
Yeah.
It was actually one of the first shows to become syndicated, from what I understand. Where at the time, let's see if I can get my history right. I hope I have all this correct.
I'll correct you.
Thank you. So when the networks were told from the 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock hour, you're all responsible for your own content.
It was when they created that family hour
Right.
time slot.
And they expected the networks to have their own studios and create their own TV shows, but almost no local networks do. So they were forced to start buying shows, and that's where syndication comes from. And the Muppet Show was in that perfect age range for like the kids are right before right after dinner or before dinner, and right before the the primetime shows start for mom and dad. So it just kind of exploded. I mean, it was just the perfect timing. Like, exploded because of that, and then it ended up in, what was it, like 120 countries or something?
Yeah, there's some difference of opinion of like how many. There are different statistics of how many countries it ended up in,
it's
but it was
about-
a lot. I think actually the syndication record was not broken until Baywatch came along a couple decades later.
It's hard to imagine just the Muppets being on and just being like, have you seen this thing? Do you know what they're
Yeah.
doing on TV?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just hard to imagine it as a new thing and like what was going on. Was it a hit? It wasn't a hit out of the gate, because even if you look at even as the casual Muppet fan on my DVDs, like if you watch, like the guests get bigger after
Yes.
a certain point.
Yeah,
like,
part of the
I still
story-
know who most of the people in the back half of the show are 30, 40 years later, however old
Right.
the show is.
Right. Part of the story is that in the first season, they could not get guest stars. They had to call in favors. Like Jim Henson and his agent had to call celebrities that they knew. But then once the first season had aired and they kind of got the hang of it and everybody was watching the show and loving it, celebrities were calling them and requesting to be on the show.
What do you guys think about Muppet Babies? How does Muppet Babies fit into the au revoir for you?
I used to really resent it because even, like, I guess... So I was born during the last season of The Muppet Show, and I guess that they
What
kind
was
of...
that?
80 to 81.
I was born in
81.
82, so
Okay.
I did not exist when the Muppet Show was on.
Yeah, so I guess they were kind of not as much in the public eye in the pure Muppet puppet form when I was growing up. So, like, I would mention that I liked Muppets, and my friends would be like, oh, yeah, Muppet Babies. I love that cartoon. And I would just shake my fist and go, oh, no, it's not just Muppet Babies. It's the Muppet Show. But I guess it was pretty good. I really haven't sat down and watched it in a while.
It was
mean,
always
it's
one thing for
different.
me. Even as a kid, I feel like I was always aware that like there was the cartoon and there were the puppets. I think the
Right.
VHS was very well worn in
Sure,
my house. It is different. But I have watched it like a little bit more recently, and it's pretty good for like a kid's cartoon. Like
Well,
if you
it
watch
was-
most kids' cartoons, they're just absolutely dreadful and like basically unwatchable. But this was like it was pretty good.
And it was on for about 8 years. So
Really?
I guess it must have been pretty good, better than the average Saturday morning show.
It was definitely a big thing for me. Like I was very into the Muppet Babies growing up. I remember going to Muppet Baby Ice-Capades, just the whole thing. It was like my thing.
Wow.
That was like the thing I was the most into as a
Who
kid.
was your favorite Muppet Baby?
Oh, Fozzie, definitely.
Oh.
I mean, he had those drop bottom pajamas.
Yeah.
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 So what else is on your you're introducing the Muppets to someone who's not familiar with it, Liz?
Well, Fraggle Rock. We didn't talk about Fraggle Rock at all.
What is Fraggle Rock? You know, I don't know much. I know the characters, I know the premise, but I can't recall much specifically about Fraggle Rock. What's going on there? I know there's a character named Boober.
Yeah, that's true. There's a Wembley and a Moki.
What else do I need to know about?
Gobo. And there's a guy named Doc and his dog Sprocket.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, the great thing about Fraggle Rock is that it's this great Jim Henson production that exists within its own self-contained world. Like, it's not like a theater in the real world. They're not running around with real human beings. It's Jim Henson created this whole society and different species that are teaching these lessons that, Jim famously said he wanted to create a TV show to bring peace to the world. And
that was Fraggle Rock?
That was Fraggle Rock. And when you watch
what kind
it now,
of lessons are on Fraggle Rock?
Well, it's a lot about unity and understanding different. Well, for them it's species, but for us it would be people that seem to on the outside have a lot of differences, but we're really all the same. We're really interconnected.
So how does that?
It's surprisingly deep.
So how does that manifest? What's a particularly rich plot on Fraggle?
One of my favorite episodes, and I'm drawing a blank. Oh, it's called Manny's Land of Carpet, where the Fraggles find a radio and they hear a commercial for a carpet store, and it's one of these come on down to Manny's Land of Carpets. We're having a great sale. You can get anything you want. So the Fraggles think that it's this creature that's talking to them, that's promising them anything they want. So they're deciding to leave Fraggle Rock and go to Manny's Land of Carpets. But then another commercial comes on, and it's for Bubba's Burger Barn. And it's also you can get all you can eat, get anything you want at Bubba's Burger Barn. So then they split into two factions. Half the Fraggles want to leave the Rock and go to Manny's Land of Carpets. Half of them want to go to Bubba's Burger Barn. And basically, I'm pretty sure the episode is actually about religion.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It absolutely is.
It's really... Yeah. And this is a kid's show with puppets, but it's about how religion tears people apart.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to go back. What's up with the... I remember the characters, but I can't really remember how they fit into the show. The larger, the trashy...
The Gorgs.
The Gorgs.
What's up with the Gorgs?
They're very large.
They are very large.
There's a trash heap, too? There's a talking...
There's a trash
the trash
heap.
heap is like their oracle. The trash heap grants the Fraggles wisdom.
Well,
Gotcha.
the thing that I love most about the Gorgs is the fact that they claim to be the king and the queen of the universe, and yet they're the only three
As far as we know,
Gorgs.
they're the only three Gorgs left.
Right, yeah.
That's kind of sad. How do they... Are they the bad guys? Are they trying to eat the Fraggles?
Sometimes, yeah. They're trying to catch the Fraggles or destroy them in some sort, because they see the Fraggles as pests. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing where, throughout the series, they find that maybe they're not so bad. Maybe we can all be friends together.
The Gorgs become a little less villainous as the series goes on.
That's true.
One last Fraggle 101 question. What's up with the Doozers? How do they fit in?
The Doozers, let's see. The Doozers used the radishes from the Gorg's garden to build doozer constructions, which they do all over Fraggle Rock.
Which is cool.
Yeah, they have to build. They can't.
They live to build. As much as the Fraggles love to sing and play, the Doozers love to build.
Oh, that's convenient for the Fraggles, huh?
Yes.
And then the Fraggles eat the Doozers' constructions, which is actually good for the Doozers, because if the Fraggles didn't eat them, then they would run out of room to build.
Huh.
So it's a very symbiotic, everybody depends on everybody else.
It says something about the show that, I can't remember what it's about really, but I remember all of those characters and, the trash heap image. I'm not even sure it's real, but I still, remember it and I associate it with Fraggle Rock. All right, what else? People don't know. So that show, I think we covered that one. What else do people, if they're not familiar with Muppets and Henson World, what else do they need to see?
Well, how about some of the experimental stuff that Jim did,
Yeah.
in his early...
If you really want to
some
get
deep
into,
cuts.
the
deep
stuff that
dive
he used
into
to
Jim
do
Henson.
on the Ed Sullivan Show and Johnny Carson Show.
So it's there, I'm vaguely aware that there's this history. How long, you said 60-year history of the Muppets?
Yeah, so Kermit the Frog, actually...
Yeah, let's talk about that. What's pre-Muppet Show Muppet life like? Pre-Sesame Street.
I just want to say Kermit is turning 60 next
This
month.
year.
Yeah, in May. So that's kind of our...
Where was it at first? On just talk shows?
Well, at the very beginning, Jim didn't set out to become a puppeteer. He wanted to work in television, and he heard that the local TV station was hiring puppeteers. So he went to the library, got a couple of books on puppets, and he taught himself how to be a puppeteer, and that's how he got into the whole game. So early on, after that very, very short-lived show, I think it was...
Do you remember the name of that show?
The Junior Morning Show.
Yes.
And
You got it.
he had his own TV show on his local Washington, D.C. station called Sam and Friends. And Sam and Friends was black and white, literally 5-minute show.
It would air between the news and the late night talk shows.
Right. That's where Kermit was originally from. And Kermit at the time was... this is you may have heard the story of Jim built Kermit out of his mother's green jacket and a couple ping pong balls.
Cool.
So Kermit, he was not yet a frog. He didn't have the collar. He didn't have webbed feet. He was just, one of many kind of almost generic looking characters that
Kind
they
of
could,
abstract.
right?
Yeah.
Like they could just throw a costume on or throw a wig onto him to make him a female character, and they would lip sync to a lot of records. And what else would they do? Like, Jim got into like short animations as well.
Yeah, well, he was already experimenting with things like writing on the screen and using subtitles in funny ways, and like chopping up audio. There's one where Kermit interviews two other puppets and uses the actual audio taken from like the previous night's newscast. So it's like he's interviewing Chet Huntley.
It's not just the newscast; it's just the intro. It's just them saying
Chet Huntley, NBC News, New York.
Right. So they just use that audio over and over again and cut it up in different ways.
Yeah.
And it's actually incredibly clever and funny.
and
like
it was
still
pretty advanced for
like almost 60 years later.
1950, whatever.
It's hysterical.
So can you see that? Like, what should people give me something actionable? Like, what can I go watch to get a sense of what that
A
was
lot
like?
of the stuff is on YouTube.
Yeah.
The Henson Company YouTube channel is actually really good about posting early stuff, including a lot of the commercials that Jim Henson did to pay the bills pretty much throughout the late 50s and 60s. He did commercials for dozens and dozens of companies and products.
It's actually one of the interesting things about his commercials back then, where he for example, there was a company called Wilkins Coffee that he did commercials for. Does Wilkins still exist? Do you know? Do we ever look that up?
I think it does regionally in the Washington, D.C. area still.
I would love to buy some. Just
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, for funsies. But so they hired him to do these. They were what, 10-second commercials?
I want to say 8 seconds.
8 seconds? Oh, it was 8 seconds. Then the other 2 seconds were for the still
The station ID.
Yeah, like just
this
showing.
is NBC.
Right. So, I mean, we don't have 10-second commercials anymore. That sounds insane. But the Muppets were perfect for that because they could have two characters. For example, the ones he used for these commercials were Wilkins and Wonkins. And Wilkins would, point a cannon at Wonkins and say, "Have you tried Wilkins coffee?"
No, I don't like it.
And then he would blow him away with the cannon, then point the cannon at the camera and say, "Now, how about you? Have you tried Wilkins coffee?" And then that's
That's the whole commercial.
It's pretty great to get that on TV in
Yeah.
whatever year that was.
And the amazing thing is, he did hundreds of them. I mean,
think
it seems like
it's
it.
over 150.
Yeah.
Vines, basically Vines.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim
Someone
Henson created the Vine.
Yeah, the Henson Company archive has mentioned that recently. That Jim Henson was doing Vines in the 50s.
Was there some technical innovation that Henson brought to the actual puppeteering? And obviously created all these wonderful characters, but like, what is it that made his puppets? What makes him like easily the #1 most famous puppeteer of all time?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, he's sort of credited with taking television puppets out of like the puppet box, where if you see something like Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, they
Like
had
a
a puppet
Punch and
stage.
Judy type
it was
of
like
thing.
the camera was pointed at a puppet stage that was set up on in the studio. But he realized that if you positioned the camera in the right place and just stuck the puppet up, I'm gesturing as if people can see, but then the camera and the television frame basically becomes the puppet stage. So it gives the puppets a lot more freedom to move around.
I mean, he did a lot of stuff like that, including, I mean, like those early days, figuring out, that the puppeteer shouldn't be looking up at the puppet that's performing in front of a camera, should be looking down at a monitor that sees what the camera sees.
Which they still do now.
Yes.
For all the Muppet stuff.
And you ask why Jim is known as one of the best puppeteers ever. I think that has more to do with character and writing than anything. But as the years went on, and Jim just wanted to do more, and he wanted to, he surrounded himself with people who were just technologically. I mean, these people were geniuses. They invented new systems and new types of puppetry and things. I mean, it's like, for example, let's talk about the Gorgs for a second. So a Gorg is
Let's talk about the Gorgs.
Let's talk about
the Gorgs.
It's my favorite Salt and Pepper song. So a Gorg is performed by 3 performers. Did I get that right? No, there's 2 performers.
It's 2.
Whoops,
Yeah.
I don't know where I got
Where'd you
that
get
from.
3?
I don't
I was
know.
trying to think in my head.
Who's the third?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's 2 performers. And, so there's one person in the Gorg suit. There's one person off to the side who's performing the voice, and he's got a glove that's radio controlling the mouth and the eyes. And the person who's inside the suit has 2 monitors right in front of their eyes, and the 2 pupils of the Gorg puppet are actually cameras. So the person who's inside the puppet sees whatever the Gorg is seeing.
Is it actually 2 cameras, or is it just one?
Maybe it's
in one
one
of the eyes. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, there is
way.
a camera or 2
Either
cameras.
way, it's ingenious.
Correct. So the puppeteer sees everything the Gorg is seeing, and from a good foot and a half taller than this performer is.
Gorg eye level.
While another performer is wirelessly controlling basically everything above the neck for this puppet. And none of that existed before Jim Henson or before, who was that, Fosfazakis? Did he invent that?
The puppet builder.
Yeah. And still, like, from what I can tell, like, the Jim Henson Company still, innovates a lot of new puppetry techniques for their projects.
There's the TV show Sid the Science Kid on PBS right now. It's one of their current projects. And it looks like a cartoon, but those characters are all, like, motion capture with, like, the puppeteers are acting out everything that you see the characters do on screen.
Yeah, how do you think, and obviously, who knows, but with all the CG, like, does that work against the Muppeteering, or does it enhance it?
Yeah, well, so...
Both.
So the one thing that we have to keep reminding ourselves is that Jim loved this like new technology and innovation so much. Whatever technology we have now, he would have absolutely embraced. Jim would be just doing something with CG that we can't even fathom.
Oculus.
I'm sure of that. Yeah.
Well, he invented a computer animated Muppet in 1989.
For the Disney park ride?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's actually created for a TV series a couple years earlier. But yeah, it's the Waldo, the Spirit of 3D that you see
I
in
think
the...
they shut that down at the outlet. When I
In
went to
LA, they
what's-
did. Yeah.
Are they both shut down now?
No, the one in Florida is still up for now.
I was
I gotta
devastated.
get myself to Disney World.
It was, I was like, what's going on? And they were like, I think something with Frozen. I was like,
Yep.
God
Lame.
damn it.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I don't even think Frozen's bad, but come on. Muppets,
Yeah, it hurts.
You at
It
least
stinks.
have
But the
see it,
Muppet
right?
thing is pretty dated, because in my mind, like, a lot of it's like, we use computers to do animation
Right.
in 3D.
Yeah, there's a few moments where it's just like, look, there's something coming at your face. It's like, yeah, there's 12 other rides within a
But
few
it's
feet
still,
of
you're
you.
in a theater and you got Statler and Waldorf
Oh,
and the
but that's the
box
thing, it
and
doesn't
Sweden's
matter.
comes
Yeah,
running out. It's
exactly.
so much more than just the 3D.
Yeah, but like the video itself, like, is about, now you're not going to believe
Yeah.
this, but we use computers
Right.
to do animation.
Sure.
Yeah, I wish they would just update that. And
Well, that's what
keep
they
it
might be
open.
doing. That's the rumor.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
but we were talking about. Oh, I lost my train of thought.
Waldo, computer animation.
With Jim of whatever.
Yeah.
So the one place where like all the CGI nowadays really kind of like stings for the Muppets is, so I don't know if you've seen Muppets Most Wanted, the movie that came out
I
last year.
haven't. I was going to get to that.
You should absolutely see it.
Okay,
You should see it.
Really
It's
good.
really, really good. But there's a lot of scenes in there
You guys
where
might be a little biased.
no, we're not. It's genuinely a good movie.
No, it is.
I hope everyone listening to this goes out and says, because the
I
other thing,
feel like maybe you guys are a little biased
But,
about if the Muppet movie that
We
just came
don't
out
like
was good.
everything,
that's
though.
true. That's true. If
Okay,
it was not
wait,
good,
wait.
we would be
Wait,
telling
I wanna
you
finish
it was
the
not
thought.
good.
Okay.
Well, we were talking about.
So there's a couple of
Technology. I
scenes
wanna
in the
finish that
movie,
thought, yeah.
right? So like for example, Constantine, the new character in the movie, is doing like flips and kicking people in the head, and like you just see the
And then
puppet
he
flying
dances
around.
later.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And because we feel like we've seen this before in all these other CGI movies, we assume he's CGI. But he's not. The puppeteer is actually there, and he's covered in green
It's like
fabric.
4 puppeteers.
Right, exactly. And we did a live commentary with him because there's no commentary on the DVD, unfortunately. And he was explaining to us like,
The
okay,
puppeteer
so
of Constantine.
I'm sorry.
With the puppeteer of
Yes, with the
Constantine.
puppeteer of Constantine, and he's explaining to us like, okay, so picture me kneeling down behind Ricky Gervais right now because that's where I am. Like I'm just covered in green, and they digitally edited me out, and it just looks. I mean, if you knew all that, I think people would be amazed, and they would think this is so much better than than if
just
they
like
thought it
saying,
was
they use computers.
No big deal.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because even though they're not using computers, just the existence of it is working against them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those new Muppet movies for a sec. I'm not a huge fan. Oh, I only saw it once. What did you guys think of the Jason Segel one?
2011.
Not a huge fan
The
of that
Muppets,
one.
which by the way is hard to talk about because it's called The Muppets.
Do you guys, I mean, I don't even like particularly dislike it. I just remember like not. I mean, for me that movie, and we talked about it. I think on this podcast, like when it came out. I think it's the one with Francesco, the comic strip artist. If you guys want to go back, the guy, and so. I think we talked about it when it came out, and my problem with the movie was like a lot. I felt like a lot of it leaned on Muppet nostalgia instead of being like just making something new and awesome and being like, here's why the Muppets are awesome. It was like, remember how the Muppets are awesome,
Yeah.
which I do, but like it didn't have enough. It traded a little heavily on that, as I recall. What did you guys think of that movie?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, same. I mean, I love the movie. But last year,
Do you guys not like any of the Muppet movies?
oh yes, Muppets Treasure Island is I think terrible. Muppets from Space is
Muppets from Space is the one that I would say.
I would rather watch Muppets from Space. Than
I
Muppets
do not
Treasure
watch
Island.
Muppets from
Treasure
Space.
Island is terrible.
Oh, really? I didn't know we
Yes.
disagreed that much about that.
We talked about this last time.
Oh,
You and I watched it
forget.
together.
I forget.
Ryan.
We know so many other Muppet fans. I can't keep track of who likes this one and who likes that one.
Yeah, that's true. So about a year ago, I watched The Muppets, followed immediately by Muppets Most Wanted. This is just before the movie came out. And I didn't realize until I saw them both back to back that The Muppets is a really sad movie. The whole thing.
Kermit
the whole
spends
movie,
most of the movie being sad.
the whole movie is about everyone is sad and we need to not be sad anymore. Can we try to figure out how to... No, we're going to have another hour and a half of this? Okay, well, and now we're happy again. Actually, it kind of isn't a happy ending. Like, everyone's still kind of sad at the end.
Yeah, because they still, they didn't get
Right.
the money and
The new
the
Muppet,
end.
what's his name? Francis, maybe?
Walter.
Walter, whatever.
Walter.
He's sad too. Like he's like he
little
has, like,
bit, yeah,
he has an
yeah.
existential crisis, like related
Yes.
to like
But
his
he's actually.
existence.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I was gonna say he might be the least sad character in the
Well,
movie
he's
because he's so
optimistic.
excited to be around the Muppets.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But I liked that. I mean, I still like that movie, but I liked
Yeah, I don't hate
it
it.
less in retrospect after the new one.
What made the
came
new
out
one so
last
good?
year.
It's just fun. It's just fun. Like it's like they found
I
a
do have to
fun
watch
story. It's well written. The actors are having a lot of fun. The the Muppet characters get a lot of fun stuff to do. I mean, in the earlier Muppet movie from 2011, I feel like a lot of the main characters kind of had to take a
Yeah.
step back to make room for Walter and Jason
Jason
Segel.
Segel.
Like it really was a Jason Segel movie with the Muppets playing second
Which
fiddle.
we owe him a debt
Yes.
because he was the one who got that movie
It's
made.
totally
right?
fine.
He
And
co-wrote the script.
You know what? Muppet Christmas Carol did the same thing. It's a Michael Caine movie with Muppets in the background.
Yeah, that's true.
But it works.
Yeah.
It's just different. But yeah, Muppets Most Wanted and like the music I think is really, really great. I love every single song on it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I'm open to the idea. Do you guys have any favorite like deep cut Muppets? You know, obviously we all like Kermit, we all like Miss Piggy and Fozzie, but who are your favorite like maybe B level Muppets? Some Guy Smileys, some
Sure.
Oh well, I do love Guy Smiley.
So Ryan
Lou
did,
with the flying
New
boomerang.
Zealand. I
New
was
Zealand.
just thinking New Zealand actually. He would definitely.
Do you want
be
to
on
talk
the
about your
list.
favorite Muppet of the Day project?
Yeah, this was an article series I did a few years ago now, but it came from like when people would ask us who's your favorite Muppet, and there's so many great characters.
I mean, it's choosing your favorite child when you
Yeah.
have 2,600 children.
exactly. How can you choose just one favorite Muppet? So I did this article series called My Favorite Muppet of the Day, where the concept was basically every day my favorite Muppet changes. So ask me today, I'll have a different answer than
How many of
tomorrow.
those did you do?
I think I only did
You did a week's
for a
worth,
week,
so it's
yeah.
5. Yeah, I remember like Floyd was on your list, which
Floyd
is a
was,
great.
yeah, he
It's a
was-
great. It's a
What's-
great
what's
choice.
it-
What's Floyd's deal? Why does Floyd make the list?
He's cool.
Oh,
like,
Floyd is just the coolest dude. Yeah.
it's you've seen that list of writing tips from a Pixar writer that
Yes.
makes runs on the internet every once in a while.
Yeah.
So one of them is like never say that your character is cool. Like that's not a descriptive term, but it totally works for
It
Floyd.
does work.
Like Floyd, like
And
all he is cool.
Especially on the Muppet Show, you can actively tell that he's like too cool to be there. Like it's a little bit beneath him to be to be on this
Floyd
unhip
is
variety
he's
show.
in the in Electric Mayhem.
Yeah,
He's
he's-
Pink Floyd. Is that the joke
yeah.
there?
Well,
Yeah,
his
sort
name
of.
is also
And-
Sergeant Floyd Pepper. So he's a Pink
okay.
Floyd who's also Sergeant Pepper.
Right.
Okay. Who else makes your list?
Sam the Eagle, who had a great spotlight in the most recent movie.
Yeah.
I love Sweetums, the big ogre.
Oh yeah.
That's a good choice.
Why, so what makes these like characters stand out? Like what makes your favorites?
It's just when they get to do fun things and get to have great spotlights. Because the thing is, but once you get beyond like the Kermit, Fozzie, Piggy type characters, most of these characters have like one or two like main characteristics,
Like Crazy Harry.
Right.
He just blows things up.
Right.
And that's it.
and like we kind of. Like because there's so many characters, you kind of have to keep them in that. They can't become 3-dimensional characters. We don't want to know why Crazy Harry.
Oh, no, that would be
wants to blow things
terrible.
up.
Like a prequel, like his
I
tragic.
Yeah.
just want to.
Like,
If
that sounds
anyone at
awful.
Disney is listening right now, please never explain Crazy Harry's origin.
But I mean, there's something lovable about that because like all they have to do is be funny. All he has to do is make things explode.
Yeah. And he shows up and does
it's
his thing, and you laugh.
hysterical. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else makes that list of Muppet things like you would show to people who just aren't familiar with the Muppets? Does that happen? Do you ever meet people who are like, "What are the Muppets?"
I don't meet people who've never heard of the Muppets, but I definitely meet people who are like, no, I was never a big Muppet fan, and then I go, okay, we got homework to do. But yeah, I don't know. trying to think of some like older,
Even
like
that is
obscure
surprising
stuff.
to me. I feel like everyone, like all ages, it's like one of the most universally agreed upon good things.
You would think so.
Which is one of the things
Well-
that, like, we've often talked about why the Muppets, not only why are the Muppets still around, but like why do not just people like Ryan and myself, but like why do people still hold them in such high regard?
Yeah, why is that?
I think a big reason is because they're timeless, because they were funny when we were kids and they're funny when we're adults.
Yeah, you
for
remember them fondly
different-
from your childhood. When you go back, they're still funny.
right,
Yeah,
and
well,
possibly
that's the
for two different
multiple levels-
reasons.
That's the multiple levels thing, yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know, they're just so recognizable. I mean, there's a reason that, when like the new Smurfs movie came out, people weren't going like, oh my God, there's a Smurf on a billboard. I gotta go see this thing. But you see Kermit on a billboard and like, there's something really exciting about that. And maybe you do have to go see that new movie or whatever it is. I mean,
Yeah.
not a lot of people said that about Muppets Most
Not
Wanted,
enough people.
but there was at least more than like the Marmaduke movie.
So why do you think that happened? Because Muppets Most Wanted didn't perform as well at the box office as the Muppets did, right? It performed
Yeah.
beneath expectations, let's just say.
Yes, that's
and
accurate.
so,
Yes.
like, why did that happen? What happened between those two movies? Or was it just that the second one didn't have Jason Segel, or what's going on there?
I don't know. We've speculated a lot if it was
Yeah.
like, the time of year that it opened,
Sure,
or it
it could
opened
be
just
anything.
like the week
Yeah.
after, a couple weeks after Mr. Peabody. Some people said maybe.
I feel like a big
Families.
reason was there was no urgency with the first Muppet movie. I'm sorry, the 2011 Muppet movie. It was the Muppets are back. You have to go see because the Muppets are
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
You haven't
yeah.
seen them in years. With this one, it was just another story. It was like, I just saw the Muppets 3 years ago. It's no big deal. I also had a lot of beef with like the posters, for example, all used photography that they took years ago. It had nothing to do with the movie. It had
Right.
nothing to do with we didn't give anyone a reason to go see like this crazy new story about this heist, or to see Ricky Gervais doing something funny other than just like looking into the camera and smiling.
And for whatever reason, people really didn't understand the thing of Kermit has an evil twin. Because a coworker actually just asked me this week, why did I see Kermit talking on TV with a Russian accent?
Yeah, no, it's
yeah.
So I don't know if it's more like the movie itself was. I think it's more the movie itself was not promoted, while the Muppets were promoted.
Right.
And
the Muppets were promoted.
Oh, they were everywhere.
I don't think I never thought this day would come, but I am no longer that excited when the Muppets show up in an internet video. It's like, they do it so much. They do, and like it's because everyone loves them, everyone wants to work with them. But like do you guys see that? Like it seems like they're. I guess it's cool how the internet has like opened up this like new forum for them to appear in things. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Are they doing more and more?
I think so.
You guys
Well,
probably
one
know
of-
better than anyone. You're tracking their.
They're definitely keeping busy. I feel like there was a bit of a lull after the most recent movie, just because from what we heard, they changed hands within the Disney hierarchy.
right.
But one thing that to keep in mind about the Muppets is that because they're actual physical puppets, physical characters, and not like an animation that needs days, weeks, months, I don't know how long to render. They can just grab a puppet, grab a celebrity, write a quick song, whatever it takes, and just get it up there
They
and
can
get
go
it
on a
onto
talk
YouTube.
show.
Yeah, exactly.
They appeared at an NBA game recently. Which
Yeah,
team was that?
LA Clippers, I think.
Yeah, they went to a Clippers game recently.
Yeah,
just
well, you saw Sweetums throw out a pitch at a Brooklyn Cyclones
I
game.
actually didn't see that. I just missed that because I was stuck on the subway.
Oh,
That
sorry.
brutal.
Was that a sore spot for you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What do you guys, when you talk to the people who perform the Muppets, what do you, first of all, are they like is there a type of person who performs the Muppets? Is it a diverse group? What are they like?
Oh, they're all assholes.
It's hard
That's
to
not true.
imagine. It's hard
That's
to
not
imagine
true.
anyone who is performing as a Muppet. Anyone who's like devoted their life to puppetry
Yes.
is an asshole. That seems.
They're all like, get out of my face, kid. I'm a Muppet.
the cool thing about the Muppeteers is that because they're all below the screen, and you don't see their face at all, they're these amazing, hilarious, talented performers, but there's no ego at all. Like, they're not in it to become famous. If they were, they would not be puppeteers. They would be actors or whatever. And that lack of ego makes them like just the nicest people in Hollywood.
We've never met one who wasn't super nice.
That's true. The other cool thing is that because there's only a few people left from that original Muppeteer generation, almost all the performers started as Muppet fans. So, like, they're just excited to be here.
They're carrying on the legacy, and they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're as excited about it as we are.
What do you guys ask them? Like, what do you want to know when you talk to one of them?
Can we hang out? Can we be best friends? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
They've all said no so far.
Yeah, we just ask them about their careers, how they got into the Muppets.
Yeah, it seems like it's Muppet or bust if you're going to be a puppeteer, right?
That's the weird thing about being a puppeteer is like really there's only a couple of places to go
so
if you're going to try to get to the top of the mountain.
I guess.
So how did they get into it?
Most of them really just like at a very young age they started building their own puppets or performing, like in their backyards or whatever, and kind of. I think every one of them had to make that choice probably around college of like, am I pursuing this as a career? Is this not just a hobby? I think it is.
Yeah, it's like when you, I guess it's like joining like a really good Division I football team. You're like, all right, this is it. I'm going for this. Like, we're trying to go pro here.
Yeah, pretty much.
And have you seen the Muppets performed live?
Oh, sure.
Like,
yeah.
Where? Under what context?
Well, we've been on the Sesame Street set a few times.
Oh my God, that's incredible!
It
What
was
is that like?
awesome.
Tell me about that.
Well, actually, I should back up and say the first time that we ever saw Muppets perform, Ryan and I got to go to the set of this not so great Muppet TV special called Letters to Santa. Which was a Christmas special.
So you guys just friends with the Muppet industry at this point?
It's really like, well, there's so few Muppet fan sites out there. There's
you
two and a half, I'd say.
You kind of get noticed.
Yeah. So like, really, we are their audience. I mean, it's a very small circle. There's only a few people who do.
So
what
they
we do.
invite you.
So this one was, I had actually just shown up I found out they were filming outside in Brooklyn Heights. And so I just went and I just stood outside and watched them film for a while. And then I got the courage to, this was how many years ago? This is like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just got the courage to like go up to Steve Whitmire, who performs Kermit the Frog, and just be like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I just want to say hello. I'm Joe. I run Tough Pigs." And I was just kind of expecting to be like, "Oh, that's interesting." And he was like, "Tough Pigs, that's awesome. I love your site." And he's like,
wow.
"Well, come with me." And he brought me backstage.
They
and
don't always know
Puppeteers.
who we are, but a lot of them,
most of them
a lot
do.
Of them
at
at least
point.
have heard of the website.
That's true. And they because of that, they invited Ryan and I to go visit the set while they were filming indoors. And we got to interview Steve Whitmire that day. We got to just sit and watch them film for an entire day, which was, just amazing.
What surprised you about that? What did you see that you didn't expect to see?
It was interesting. One thing they did that I think one of the writers actually said as an aside to us, sometimes you write something not realizing how hard it will be for the Muppets to do because they can't use their hands, for example. There was this gag in that special where they were going through airport security. And Rizzo tells Pepe that he has to put his electronic devices in a bin. Pepe has 4 arms, so he had an electronic device in each arm. So he says BlackBerry, Blueberry, and with each arm he's putting them. So they had to have, I guess, was it 3 puppeteers?
At least it may have been 1 puppeteer per arm. And then Bill Beretta doing Pepe's head.
And then one would fall out of his hand and they'd have to start over again. And it just took many, many takes to do one simple gag that probably was on screen for 6 seconds.
Yeah, that's cool. What about Sesame Street? What was being there like?
Sesame Street's amazing. That's where I learned how to read. Man.
Totally. Yeah, I literally learned how to read there.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. That one was more emotional for me than anything, just because we walk on the set for the first time. I remember and being like, "Oh my God, it's the stoop! Oh my God, it's Oscar's can!"
Yeah.
And they let us go inside the can. And I remember when we were leaving later on in the day, we were walking through a room that had Bert and Ernie's beds, and we were like, "Nobody's around."
Oh my
And
God.
we had someone take a picture of me and Ryan both inside
Poking
the
our
beds.
heads up through Bert and Ernie's
that's
beds.
amazing.
It's
That's
just insane, man. It's just insane.
Also, the kind of amazing thing that I found is we've been there a couple times, so you see it with you see the end of the street and it's the studio floor and you see the lights overhead and everything, but then when I turn on the TV show and watch it, I still see Sesame Street.
Right.
I'm not thinking about the lights just outside the frame.
Right.
It's still the same place.
When you see the characters perform live, is the illusion real? Do you see the person performing it at all, or are you locking eyes with the character?
For the most part, I think I only see the character because some of the performers, they just
melt
all
into
of their
it.
energy is going through their hands at that point. Leslie Carrara, who plays Abby Cadabby, is one of those people who she'll see someone hanging out on the side of this off set, and she'll grab Abby, put the puppet on, and be like, "Hi, how you doing?" Just in your face, and you don't see Leslie at all. It's all Abby.
It is kind of interesting and fun to watch them, though, just to kind of look at the puppet, look at the puppeteer, look at the puppet. Although then at a certain point, you look at the puppeteer and it's kind of like, oh, why is that lady talking in Abby Kadabi's voice?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
why is she lip syncing everything that Abby Kadabi is saying?
I think the only times I can think of that like you look at the puppet and they're not just 100% like there is when it's a puppet that probably takes a lot more energy to perform. Recently, I got to see Matt Vogel playing Big Bird, who is the understudy for Carol Spinney, and just because Big Bird's a very large puppet and he's heavy, and we were also in a rush
I don't
doing
even
the thing we were
understand how
doing.
it works. I mean, I think I've seen that diagram online.
Yeah,
like you got one hand up in the air, right,
That's right.
for the beak, and then
One, and then the other hand is going through the right hand. Or I'm using
The
my
wing.
right hand
Yeah.
for one wing.
Yeah.
The other wing is empty, but there's a string that it goes up through the neck and then down to the other wing. So
you
when
can,
one
gotcha.
goes up, the other one goes
Which
down.
you really don't notice on the show unless you're looking for it.
It's true,
They do a
yeah.
really good job of hiding that, making
Yeah.
that invisible.
But yeah, like sometimes the puppeteers are just like, I need to get this thing that's on camera, and I'm not going to keep the puppet up. It's just for waiting for the next take. Like it's
yeah,
it looks
your
a lot.
hands in the air. I just demonstrated
Yeah.
that, even though no one can see holding my hand in the air.
It's hard.
I'm tired. I'm
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah, now do that for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Although it was weird last
In
time.
a giant bird suit.
Yeah.
Last time Ryan and I were on set together, we saw Snuffy, which was also
Snuffy walked
amazing.
right past us.
Walked right past us. But the weird thing was, I don't know if you really remember this. They, there's a second puppeteer, obviously for the hind legs, and the seam was open so that he could get some air, I guess, before they started
'cause they
filming.
weren't shooting yet.
So it was just like Snuffy, like completely like gutted open with a human being inside, like as if he like
a
swallowed
tauntaun.
somebody. Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
That was a little discomforting, I think.
I thought you were just going to comment on how well synchronized they were.
They were.
Because those guys have been doing it for so long. It's like Snuffy moves like one creature with just 4 legs.
Yes.
Yeah.
How does Follow That Bird hold up? Because
Oh, man.
when I was a kid, my mom will still bring up that I cried a lot when Big Bird was painted
It's
blue.
sad.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
devastating for me as a child.
love that movie. I love Follow That Bird.
I love it
do-
with some
you're
reservations.
hesitant,
No,
really?
I love it with some. I
What are
don't
your
know. I can just
reservations?
see the flaws in it more than I could, obviously, when I was like 5 years old.
Yeah, but
I can't even think of a flaw. What are the flaws?
Well, isn't it weird that they made? I mean, what's the deal with that movie? Because it is strange to take Sesame Street, who, like we were saying, the Muppets weren't designed to teach numbers. You're taking those Sesame Street characters who were and putting them into a narrative movie, which is more of what the Muppets were
I
designed
think
to
the
do,
writers
right?
probably like it when they get to do that stuff.
right, they definitely got to branch out because they're not teaching letters and numbers now. They're doing a whole
Is there
70
anything
minute
educational
story.
in Follow That Bird?
Well, it's more
No,
of like
not really.
messages about
Friendship.
family
Sure,
and friendship
sure.
and responsibility and things like that.
And that it's okay to jump from a moving truck if a grown up gives you permission.
That's right. That's important.
Yes.
But then they had a second movie in the '90s called Elmo and Grouchland, which is
yeah.
it
It was not
skews
as good.
much younger. Yeah, it's a much
Well,
cheaper
Elmo-
looking movie.
I never saw that because I was,
It's not worth your
It's
time.
good.
But
skippable.
it seemed like that one seemed more like. What's cool about Follow That Bird is it's like Big Bird's run amok on Earth, like Big
Yes.
Bird's like on a cross-country voyage. That one's a little more in Muppet World, isn't it?
Yes.
It's
Well,
in
he goes to
Grouchland.
Grouchland,
yeah.
It's supposed to
Yeah.
be Grouchland. But it still makes Follow That Bird stand out as a little more unique. So Grouchland's like not educational. It's just like Elmo's adventure.
No, there's something educational about it. It's whatever it is.
there?
Like yeah, it's,
it's like I guess like learning to be brave. Is
well,
that
there's
kind of
definitely. It's been so long since I've seen the movie, but there's definitely moments when like the action stops and Elmo's like, "Well, we got to figure out how to do this," and like it's just like you got to some sort of logic or whatever that the kids are
Thinking.
encouraged to like
Yeah.
shout at the screen, maybe like a Dora the Explorer thing.
Boy,
which
if
is
Elmo's
exactly
not,
what you want to hear in a movie theater.
Yeah, right.
like Elmo. If Elmo's not actively teaching me something, my tolerance for Elmo drops a lot. Like I feel like Elmo gets away with a lot because he's educational.
No,
you
see,
know?
now I think it's the opposite. I think Elmo is the most entertaining when he's just like allowed to go nuts. And,
Elmo
like,
on talk shows is usually
it's the
hilarious.
best. It's
yeah.
hysterical. Now when he has to like teach, the letter D, like maybe we're a little stuck with the educational content.
Do you guys ever see the video? And I just remember when you said Elmo on a talk show. It used to be one of my favorite videos online, and I haven't thought about it in a while, with Cookie Monster on Martha Stewart's show.
Oh yeah,
where he
Cookie
just goes
Monster's
crazy.
Like,
Oh.
he seems like he's legitimately upsetting Martha Stewart.
he
Yeah.
is.
Like,
he
what's the
is.
story there?
The story is that Frank
Oz
Oz.
is
So
awesome.
first of all,
Did-
pause, go search Cookie Monster,
Yes.
Martha Stewart.
Yes.
You'll find it.
The
All right,
story
now they're back.
is
What's
that-
up with that amazing video.
Frank Oz does not give a fuck. That's what it comes down
So
to.
that's Frank Oz, because I mean that's a fairly recent video. Frank Oz still performs Muppets.
Very rarely.
He doesn't do the Muppet Show characters anymore. He doesn't do Piggy, Fozzie, Animal, but he's every once in a while he shows up for Sesame Street stuff.
From what I hear, it's like every other year he'll do like a day on set.
Cool. That's cool. He still does that.
Yeah, I think he just does it. I mean, like, a part of me is a little upset about the fact that like Frank Oz is genuinely one of the, if not one of, he is the best puppeteer in the world. Like, I mean, he's just an amazing talent, absolutely hysterical. But someone's ringing. He just doesn't.
Let's plow through it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just
Sorry,
distracted me.
whoever's calling.
That's cool. So, so he's one of the best puppeteers in the world, but he doesn't perform anymore. Like, he just wants to direct, and he's a good director.
Yeah, he's made some great movies.
But he's not the greatest director in the world.
That's true.
That's like Picasso being like, I'm going to try playing the guitar.
Or Jordan playing baseball, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I see that, but at the same time, I think, he's given us decades and decades of genius work. I think we can let him relax.
But is he relaxing? If he was,
I don't know.
If he was
I don't know what
genuinely...
Frank Oz. What is Frank Oz doing right now?
Well, he just got married.
So that's
he's
Frank
enjoying
Oz
that.
on Martha Stewart, and he
Yes.
was just like, fuck it, and just like went for it.
Yeah. Because I think he also, like, Frank Oz got to a point in his career where he's like, what are you going to do, fire me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fucking Cookie Monster.
Cookie
I mean,
Monster.
yeah.
So Martha Stewart seems legitimately upset in that video. It's such a funny video.
Yes.
I think she wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
There's also one of Frank as Miss Piggy with Martha Stewart that's almost as funny. Which is
The
worth
other one
checking
I
out.
was just going to mention is Miss Piggy on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno when they had her on for New Year's Eve. I don't remember what year it is. It's definitely on YouTube. But
how old is it? Like 90s?
It's the 90s. I want to say it's like 96 to 97, something like that. So they have Miss Piggy on the top of some building in Times Square reporting live for the New Year's Eve thing. And you can kind of tell as they check in with Miss Piggy throughout the hour that Frank Oz is getting increasingly cranky. So
also, we hear it was freezing cold,
Yeah.
so they just wanted to, they're just waiting for midnight so they can get the hell out of there.
Yeah, by the end, he's just kind of like, he's screaming, he's yelling at people off camera.
Just telling Jay,
as Miss
who
Piggy.
cares?
Yeah.
There's a ball that's going to drop.
The ball is dropping.
All right, so we're running out of time. One last thing that we haven't talked about yet that people should see to really appreciate the genius of the Muppets. From each of you. Let's get one more from each of you. Ryan, what are you thinking?
I should be thinking about this while you're talking.
Well, that's not fair. 'Cause now I
And go.
did I name an episode of The Muppet Show yet?
No, I did.
Yeah. Wow, I got to think about that.
Well, here, while you're thinking,
Yes,
I got
go.
one. I'm going to brag for a second. Have you seen Big Birdman?
No.
So
It's a Birdman. I haven't
there's
seen
a
Birdman
Birdman
yet.
spoof that I actually pitched a spoof of a Birdman to the people at Sesame Street and got to write a script that
Whoa.
eventually became a thing.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it went viral. It went like crazy viral, like 750,000 views on YouTube. And it is the great thing about it was it's not just like we're spoofing a popular movie, but like we got to use Carol Spinney as himself. So Carol Spinney has been playing Big Bird
Right.
for 40 some years, and it really was nice to. I mean, first of all, it's amazing to get to work with him, but like it's really great to see that Carol Spinney got a little bit of a spotlight as himself, not just as Big Bird.
Well, there's that documentary out about him now, too, right?
Yes,
I Am Big Bird,
which is
yeah.
fantastic.
That's about to open in theaters
yeah,
all over the country.
Yeah, beginning of March. So, I mean, really the great thing about Big Birdman is more about what Sesame Street is doing nowadays, which is they're still doing like really amazing spoofs, and they're still getting like crazy amounts of attention on YouTube, and they're still like relevant, which is awesome
yeah.
for a show that's 46 years old. A puppet show for preschoolers,
Right.
for people to care about it still blows my mind.
It's for preschoolers and people who watch YouTube.
That's
Point.
right,
Yeah.
and for you and me.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Mostly for you and me.
That's right.
I would recommend for Disney fans at least to watch the Muppets at Walt Disney World, which
what's
is
that?
a TV special that was one of the last things Jim Henson ever worked on. It was at the time when he was intending to sell the company to Disney in 1990, and they made this special, which is basically the Muppets running amok at Disney World, and it's just like they go to all 3 parks at the time, and it's all these like pretty much every Muppet character gets something to do within the hour, and it's just really funny and fun and has great songs.
It is,
and Charles Grodin.
and tragically not on DVD, which makes no sense.
No, it's never
because
been released.
It's Disney. Disney owns the Muppets now.
Yeah, it should be a DVD extra somewhere, but it hasn't been.
Yeah.
Are you guys happy with how Disney has treated the Muppets now that they own them?
Mostly.
Except, ignoring the fact they shut down the ride in the LA theme park. Maybe we'll let that slide just for this moment.
You say mostly. I say mostly not. I feel
really?
like between, what was that, 2001 and 2011?
2004 was when they bought them.
2004 and
Yeah, it took
2001?
them a while to make anything.
Like, almost nothing. Like, that's awful.
Wait, when did they buy them?
2004.
And then, and then not really anything until the movie in 2011.
Exactly.
Was that?
Yeah. So I feel like every once in a while, and still, like, we'll get like these like a push of like, there's Muppets all over YouTube, or there's like a new Muppet special coming out, or a movie, or whatever, and then silence.
Like, okay, we did that. Now let's
Right.
take a few years off.
And I'm also like upset about the fact that like they've never figured out how to merchandise the Muppets since they've owned them. Like,
really
how do we
not
not have
enough.
Muppet stuff? How
Yeah.
hard is it to get like cool plush,
Yeah.
more DVDs, anything? And they're really just kind of like every once in a while, they're like, there's a little something, and we don't really
I did
want
buy
it.
a few little adorable Muppet dolls at Hallmark, the Hallmark store for
Yes.
the weekend. So there's that.
That is a good license for
Yes.
Disney to have.
Yeah.
Those are very cute.
Yes.
So, I always have high hopes that, Disney's a big machine. Maybe someone will figure out how to make money from the Muppets, which seems pretty obvious to you and me.
Well, I don't know if you heard the news that was all over the internet this past couple days.
No, tell me about
Is
it.
that they're working on I guess it's at this point it's just a pilot presentation, but for a possible new Muppet series on ABC.
Cool.
So our fingers are crossed.
And what do you have any sense of what that would be like the old Muppet show, like Muppet? Because Muppets Tonight, when they brought that back in the 90s, kind of had the same conceit of like the behind-the-scenes variety show thing,
yes,
right?
Yes, I assume it would be not
It
similar to
seems
Muppets
like
Tonight,
it's-
but the same type of format, like a new variety show.
Yeah, variety.
Yeah,
Variety show would
format.
be cool.
yeah.
That's really what they do best at.
Exactly. I mean, that's what their YouTube stuff is.
Yeah.
It's just sketches and songs,
Short
and that's
songs
really, and
with
you
jokes.
put a celebrity in there for a half hour. That's it. That's your show.
Maybe
Yeah.
Netflix could do it. I'm just throwing that out there.
I would
think
love
one
it
of
if
the
Netflix
articles
did
I
it.
read said Netflix they looked at it and they passed on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, they say this pilot's for ABC. Netflix has been doing some great work, and they're supposedly like about to be rolling out a bunch of kids or all ages related stuff soon. So like, I feel like that would be a no-brainer, but
It makes sense.
maybe not to the Netflix people.
It does seem like they're never going away, right? Like,
Right.
they're going to be here forever. We're all like, yes, definitely.
I
yeah.
hope. Well, because then if they went away, we would have nothing to write about.
That's true.
What is the name of the website again?
Tough
Tough
Pigs.
Pigs.
And can people follow it in social media, various social media outlets?
Yes.
What's that like?
We are on Twitter at Tough Pigs. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/Tough Pigs.
Pigs.
And we are on Tumblr.
Joe runs the Tumblr because I do not understand Tumblr at all.
Right. You want to do the Instagram? Do we have an Instagram account? We don't have one.
I don't know. We have a Google Plus
Do
that
we?
we rarely update.
Google
but it's out
Wave?
there
Do we have a
if you
Google
wanted
Wave
to.
account?
We have a Friendster and a...
The other cool thing that I wanted to mention is for anyone who's listening who might be local in New York, we do a monthly show called The Muppet Vault. And what that is we basically pick a theme every month. And for example, Halloween, our theme is monsters, or our most recent one was Kermit the Frog themed. And we pick a bunch of rare or favorite Muppet clips and episodes to show in front of an audience. And it's a lot of fun, and we get a really great crowd every month. We usually do it at Union Hall in Park Slope.
Cool.
It's cheap. It's only $8.
And we do Muppet themed drink specials, which is always fun.
That's right.
We had the Fozzie Navel is a favorite.
That's
yes.
a good one.
And we do trivia. We give away prizes from our own personal Muppet collection because we have so much crap that we don't know what to do with it. We've been doing the show for almost 5 years now. And we're coming up on our 50th show soon, which is going to be really fun.
That's cool.
So you can get information about that on our website, on Tough Pigs, or we always mention it on our social media as well, as much as possible.
That sounds fun. I'll check that out.
Yes, please.
Thanks so much for talking, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having us.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to yet another episode of the Jeff Rubin Show. I'm going to level with you. I just recorded one of these. It was beautiful. I sang a song. I recited a poem. And then I listened back to it, and I think the cable's broken, and I lost the whole thing. It was just static. I think I got to throw out this cable. I definitely lost that song and the poem, and they were really beautiful. And honestly, I'm just in a rush. Otherwise, I'd sing them again. You're just getting this lame-ass outro instead, where all I do is remind you to follow me on Instagram, where I'm at Jeff Rubin Show. I think. Maybe I'm at Jeff Rubin. I'm not sure. You'll figure it out. On Twitter, though, I'm at Jeff Rubin Show. And the Facebook fan page. On Tumblr at jeffrubinshow.com. Nope. That's the podcast page, jeffrubinshow.com. Tumblr, just jeffrubin.com. Couldn't make more sense. And I guess that's it. You know where to go. Find me, say hello, send me an email. My email address is at jeffrubinshow.com. You can get in touch with me. Let me know about people you'd like to hear on the show. Love that. And I think that's it. I'll talk to you guys in 2-ish weeks.